At number 5, we're stepping into the haunting realm of the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, a name that sent shivers down the spines of Southern Californians throughout the 1980s. Ramirez was a true harbinger of fear, a predator who struck under the cover of darkness. Picture this, the dead of night, and Ramirez breaking into homes, a menacing figure cloaked in darkness. But he wasn't merely a burglar, he was a merciless assailant, leaving a trail of terror, often assaulting and killing his helpless victims. Ricardo Leyva Muñoz Ramirez was born in 1960 in El Paso, Texas, as the youngest of 5 children to Mexican immigrant parents. His father, a former policeman, grappled with alcoholism, which fueled frequent bouts of rage leading to the physical abuse of his wife and children. To escape his father's violent temper, 12-year-old Richard slept in a local cemetery and spent time with his older cousin, who was a Vietnam War veteran. His cousin showed him a series of Polaroid photos of Vietnamese women he had allegedly raped, tortured, killed, and dismembered. Instead of being horrified by the stories and images that his cousin shared with him, Ramirez was intrigued and captivated by them. He was present when his cousin tragically took the life of his wife through a fatal gunshot. Richard's life of crime began with breaking into homes and stealing. Things took a dark turn when, at age 14, he started using LSD and became interested in Satanism. Before long, he developed an obsession with the same kinds of sexual violence that his cousin had. His killings took place during home invasions in the Los Angeles area. He committed his first known murder in June 1984. He entered the home of a 79-year-old woman and sexually assaulted her, repeatedly stabbing her and slashing her throat so deeply that she was almost decapitated. Ramirez's murder spree in 1985 had established his signature of shooting and killing the husband, then assaulting and stabbing the wife. Satanic symbols were found at the crime scenes. Some of his victims survived. What's truly mind-boggling is how it all came to an end. It wasn't just the police, but a community of vigilant citizens who played a pivotal role. Some recognized him from police sketches and decided to take matters into their own hands. They chased down this real-life bogeyman, helping to apprehend him and finally bring him to justice. His trial began in early 1989, and in September he was convicted of 13 murders. Ramirez never expressed remorse, and, after receiving his sentence, he stated, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory." While on death row at San Quentin State Prison, Ramirez was diagnosed with cancer. He was 53 when he died in 2013.
Why did you kill those people?
No comments.
And now, at number 4, we're about to unveil one of the rare female serial killers who earned her notorious place in our list, none other than Aileen Wuornos. Her story is a complex web of tragedy and terror, a narrative that gripped the nation.
Stop the using taxpayers' money and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. I wanted to come clean and tell the world I killed those men first degree. Robbed and killed them to keep from any witnesses.
Aileen Carol Wuornos was born in 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Her parents separated 2 months before her birth. Her father was never part of her life. He hanged himself in his prison cell while serving a life sentence for raping a 7-year-old girl. Her mother abandoned her and her sibling, leaving them in the care of alcoholic grandparents who were emotionally abusive to her. Worse, her grandfather beat and raped her for several years. Wuornos became pregnant in her early teens and was forced to give up her child for adoption. There were conflicting stories on who the father was, as she claimed that she was raped by a family friend, but some people were wondering if the pregnancy was the result of her incestuous relationship with her older brother. At the age of 15, she was kicked out of the house, and she began living in the woods, surviving through petty theft and prostitution. She was 18 when she found herself in police custody in Jefferson County, Colorado, on charges of DUI, disorderly conduct, and discharging a .22 caliber pistol from a moving vehicle. She hitchhiked her way to Florida, where she married a 69-year-old semi-retired businessman when she was 20. However, she didn't change her ways and continued to get into trouble with local law enforcement. Within weeks of the marriage, her husband filed a restraining order against her after she allegedly beat him with his own cane. Their marriage was eventually annulled. When she was 22, she attempted suicide by shooting herself in the stomach. In 1991, Wuornos was arrested, and her girlfriend, in exchange for immunity from prosecution, cooperated with the police to obtain a confession from her during a series of phone calls regarding the murders. She admitted to killing 7 men over a 12-month period, from December 1989 to November 1990, when she was 34 years old and engaging in street prostitution. All the victims were Caucasian motorists between the ages of 40 and 65. She left their bodies in secluded areas off main roads along the highways of Florida, and they had been killed by multiple shots from a .22 caliber firearm. Wuornos gave conflicting accounts of what happened, as she sometimes claimed that she had been a victim of rape or attempted rape and that she acted on self-defense. At other times, it was a case of robbery. Wuornos was sentenced to death for 6 of the murders, as the body of the last victim was never found. She was executed by lethal injection in 2002 after 10 years in death row. At number 3, we step into the creepy world of John Wayne Gacy, infamously known as the Killer Clown. This is a tale that takes horror to a whole new level, a story that still haunts the nightmares of many. He raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 young men and boys in the 1970s, between the ages of 14 and 21. John Wayne Gacy was born in 1942 in Chicago. He had a troubled childhood, having an alcoholic father who was physically and verbally abusive to him. His earliest memory growing up was his father beating him at the age of 4, and when his mother tried to shield him, his father would call him a sissy. He never told his father when a family friend molested him for fear that he would be blamed for it. Fast forward to his adult life. What truly sets Gacy apart is his baffling double life. On one hand, he was a successful businessman owning a construction company, managing fast food restaurants and actively participating in his community. He even entertained children as Pogo the Clown. This chilling ability to appear normal while harboring a sinister alter ego would play a pivotal role in the horrors that unfolded. Luring young men with the enticing promise of construction work and the allure of easy money, Gacy led some of these unsuspecting souls to their doom. Others were enticed to his home under the pretense of a good time, only to meet a gruesome fate. At one point, Gacy was convicted of sodomy on a 15-year-old son of a local politician. He was sentenced to 10 years in 1969 but was released on parole after only serving 18 months. He started his life over at a ranch house he bought in Norwood Park Township. However, he couldn't escape his demons and continued his duplicitous lifestyle. What makes Gacy's reign of terror even more horrifying is the scale of his atrocities. The number of victims he left in his wake was staggering. All nightmares must come to an end, and Gacy's did when the police unearthed a gruesome secret hidden beneath his very house. It was a house of horrors, concealing the remains of his innocent victims in a nightmarish burial ground. When the crawlspace was full and he couldn't dig more graves, he dumped 4 bodies in the Des Plaines River. Most of his victims that were retrieved from his crawlspace had decomposed beyond recognition but were identified and released to their families for burial. However, 6 remained anonymous to this day. In 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. Until the end, he never showed any remorse, and his final words were, "Kiss my ass." Get ready, because at number 2, we're about to dive into one of the most chilling cases in the annals of true crime, the nightmarish tale of Jeffrey Dahmer, infamously known as the Milwaukee Cannibal. This is a story that defies belief, a dark journey into the abyss of one man's descent into pure evil. Our story begins in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in 1960. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born into what seemed like an ordinary family. But beneath the surface, there were dark undercurrents, with a father frequently absent from home and a mother battling hypochondria and depression. His childhood was filled with ominous signs, like his fascination with roadkills and dissection of animals, as well as a strange compulsion to necrophilia by the age of 14. Disturbing, right? And things only got worse from there. After a brief stint at Ohio State University, Dahmer's life took a dark turn. Alcohol abuse led to his expulsion, marking the beginning of his descent into darkness. His twisted fantasies became a living nightmare. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer embarked on a gruesome killing spree. He murdered 17 people, mainly young men of Asian or African American descent, particularly those on the fringes of society. With the promise of money, alcohol, or the allure of a photoshoot, he ensnared his unsuspecting prey. His first victim was an 18-year-old hitchhiker on his way to a rock concert, who Dahmer picked up in Ohio and brought to his mother's home in Bath Township. This was in June 1978 when he just graduated from high school. Dahmer had long fantasized about raping men, but he claimed that he had no intention of killing the first one. They shared a drink, but when the young man tried to leave, Dahmer struck him on the head with a barbell, strangled him, and dismembered his body. It was after committing his second murder in 1987 that his obsession with killing went full swing. The details are not for the faint of heart. He drugged and strangled his victims, after which he would have sex with some of the corpses before dismembering them. At times, he kept gruesome trophies, mainly body parts such as the head and genitals. In September 1990, he began eating the body parts of his victims out of curiosity.
The heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
Dahmer even attempted to keep a couple of his victims alive in a zombie-like state by drilling a hole in their heads and pouring hydrochloric acid into it, but the experiment didn't work. His gruesome crimes and insatiable appetite for the unimaginable were hidden from the world. That is, until one fateful day in 1991 when a potential victim, a 32-year-old black man, managed to escape his clutches, and it ultimately led to Dahmer's arrest. Police discovered the shocking evidence in Dahmer's apartment. Polaroid photographs of his victims in various stages of dismemberment were in his drawer. Body parts including a severed head were found in his refrigerator. Other dismembered remains were in his freezer. Dahmer was also in the process of constructing an altar with victims' skulls on a black table, adorned at each side with an entire skeleton. He intended it to be a place of meditation where he could feel at home. His trial in 1992 was a macabre revelation. It's hard to believe that he was declared sane, and his guilty but insane plea shook the nation. In 1994, while in prison, a fellow inmate took justice into his own hands, delivering a brutal end to the Milwaukee Monster. But that didn't undo the horrors of his past. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, our number one pick for the most infamous serial killer of all time. Brace yourselves, for we're delving deep into the sinister world of the charming psychopath, Ted Bundy. His killing spree from 1974 to 1978 unfolded across several U.S. states, leaving a trail of devastation and despair. Our story begins in the picturesque city of Burlington, Vermont, in 1946 when Theodore Robert Cowell was born. His childhood seemed ordinary, growing up in a middle-class family. However, Bundy never knew his biological father, and he was raised to believe that his grandparents were his parents while his mother was his sister. This deception marked the beginning of a web of lies in Bundy's life. His biological mother later remarried, and Ted took on his stepfather's last name, Bundy. As a child, Bundy was intelligent but troubled. He showed an early fascination with knives and violence. Fast forward to the 1970s when Bundy's sinister side came into full view. He embarked on a terrifying spree of abductions, sexual assaults, and murders, leaving a trail of horror. What makes Ted Bundy stand out in the darkest annals of criminal history is not just the magnitude of his crimes but his chilling charisma. He effortlessly lured unsuspecting victims into his grasp with a charm that was as disarming as it was deadly. Bundy often pretended to be injured, only to overpower them. He could be anyone, and that's what made him so terrifying. The depth of his depravity was unparalleled. Bundy would often revisit the sites where he dumped the bodies to have sex with their decaying corpses. His first known attack was in January 1974, on an 18-year-old student at the University of Washington. He broke into her apartment and used a metal rod from her bed frame to struck her unconscious before sexually assaulting her with it. She survived but was left with brain damage along with significant loss of hearing and vision. His first confirmed murder was that of a 21-year-old student from the same university. He broke into her room, beat her unconscious, and then transported her to a secluded area where he raped, killed, and disposed of her body. His capture wasn't the result of mere chance, it was the outcome of diligent police work and a series of crucial discoveries. In 1977, he managed to escape from prison not once, but twice. In a remarkable display of cunning, Bundy, acting as his own lawyer, was granted access to a courthouse library in Aspen, Colorado. He seized an opportunity to leap out of a courthouse window, briefly tasting freedom before being recaptured 8 days later. But Bundy's audacious escape didn't end there. He orchestrated another breakout, this time by creating a hole in the ceiling of his prison cell. Once outside, he embarked on a harrowing journey that led him to Tallahassee, Florida. There, he infamously broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, where he launched a brutal assault on 4 young female residents, ultimately claiming the lives of 2 of them. His crimes didn't stop there. He was eventually apprehended because of his reckless driving. Bundy is known to have raped and murdered at least 20 women. He confessed to killing 36, but these claims were not substantiated. Some experts believe his actual victim count might be closer to 100 or even more, due to the confidence with which he committed those crimes in 1974.
This is the verdicts, Madam Clerk.
In the Circuit Court of the Second Judicial Circuit in Leon County, Florida, case number 78670, with the jury at Miami-Dade County, Florida, this 24th day of July, AD 1979, found the defendant, the Lord Robert Bundy, as to count 3 of the indictment, murder in the first degree upon one Lisa Levy, guilty as charged, so say we all, Rudolph E. Trimble, foreman.
I'm not asking for mercy, for I find it somewhat absurd to ask for mercy for something I did not do.
As Bundy's mother listened, the judge had no hesitation in passing the death sentence.
She was struck several times about the head. She had a ligature around her neck, which was a pantyhose that strangled her, caused her death. The beating was vicious, vile, and wicked, and atrocious. It is further ordered that on such scheduled date that you be put to death by a current of electricity sufficient to cause your immediate death, and such current of electricity shall continue to pass through your body until you are dead.
He was finally executed by electric chair in January 1989. In the end, Ted Bundy's tale serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the most horrifying monsters are those we least suspect. Wow, what a journey through the dark depths of human depravity and madness, exploring the top 10 infamous serial killers. If you found this countdown as captivating as we did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing that, you'll be in the loop for more riveting content that delves into the mysterious and macabre. Until next time, remember to stay curious, stay safe. You never know what might be lurking just out of sight.